Welcome to Everyday Magic, Intentional Goods and Healing, the podcast, where you get to listen in on conversations with creators, where we meet the makers who supply our store with magical and intentional goods and healing. I am your host, Lizzie Rose Reese. I'm an energy healer and teacher, a children's book author, and proprietor of Everyday Magic, Intentional Goods and Healing, located in Woodstock, New York, and online at everydaymagicwoodstock.com. In today's episode, episode 2, we talk with Eesha'ma, who has created Creation Matrix Manifestation Journals, truly powerful tools for your creation. Eesha'ma also creates healing soundscapes. She shares my love for kirtan, and she is a wonderful healer. I hope you enjoy. Welcome, Eesha'ma.
Hello.
I'm so happy to have you here for a conversation that everybody else can hear.
Yeah, me too.
Eesha'ma is the creator of the creatrix of these beautiful Creation Matrix manifestation journals that we have at the shop. And when I first had the idea to do the podcast, she was one of the people I was very eager to be in conversation with. So, yay. So glad you're here. And not everybody's going to be watching this. Some people will be listening, but as I'm talking, I'm just flashing some of these beautiful journals up on the screen to be seen. And I'm just going to read this beautiful description that you wrote about the journals, which has caught the eye of many people in the shop and has moved some even to tears. So nice work. Touching, folks. In your hands is the blank yet fertile ground of your future crystalline grid. A grid that beholds the pages of templates yet to be created. A landscape of infinite love and possibilities, these blank pages await patiently your creative life force to plant the seeds intended for your highest self to birth through your current being here and now. These journals are light and sound encoded with frequencies of playfulness, creativity, non-judgment, love, unconditionality, compassion, receptivity, and a sensation of unlimitedness. They vibrate to support you on your journey of unfolding the mystery of who you are, beloved. The words themselves are such a transmission of energy, and the first time I held one of the journals in my hands, I felt that transmission of energy and sort of immediately knew that there was something really special and powerful in my hands. So I guess I would love for you to just talk about what they mean to you or your intention in creating them or how they came to be.
Yeah. So I think in the very beginning, I wanted just to create my own journal in the sense that I knew that it was possible and I kind of wanted a DIY project and journals are kind of expensive and I thought to myself, why don't I just make one? So I have a friend who taught me. I saw that she had been making journals for many years because she went to art school and she learned. And so she taught me how to do Coptic binding, which is a technique used to bind the pages together. The little signatures, which are like each packet of, yeah, every single one of those. Together, and it's a really beautiful braiding process where you weave the string like in and out and then you knot it and then in and out and you knot it, and so it's meditative and you feel and well you see that you're actually creating something right before your eyes. You're putting pieces together that were at one time separate, So the weaving also represents my intentions of like what did I want to bring this journal forth in the first place for? And I thought, well, I want to be more organized. So I want to have like a schedule book. And so this was my very basic idea of like what I was bringing forth to myself. And so I made my first journal. It's right here.
Oh.
And I put some inspiring pictures and I wanted to make them reusable too. So they're actually all reusable, the covers technically. So all you have to do is like snip these little pieces. So
You could put new pages inside.
yeah, which is what I did because I just started this
Oh,
2021.
I love that, especially when you're talking about the affordability, right? You made it because you wanted to, well, you wanted to make it, but because journals are expensive. And so you're making something that is sustainable in that way that can be reused and put new intention into it. Whenever we talk about like braiding or weaving, I immediately think of weaving your intentions into the creation process.
Definitely. Yeah, and I made this journal and I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. This was, I mean, relatively easy. There is like skill that you have to learn, and then there's patience. There's a lot of patience. Like you have to wait for the glue to dry and before you move on. Um, but I started making them more. So I am part of an a cappella group called Key of Q, and we had a fundraiser, and I made like a little bundle of journals to sell at this fundraiser, and I was like, this is just so fun. I don't, but I felt inclined to make more, and so I would then start to make journals for all of my friends' birthdays and or Christmas presents or something.
They get journals and your special cake.
Yes.
My goodness. So my birthday's in March. Spend a lot of time together between now and then, so I qualify to receive the cake and or journal.
Yes. Um, yeah, and one night, so I have a connection to my guides, I would say, to my intuitive sense. And one night I just got tapped on the shoulder by them and they gave me this whole download like, you need to make these journals and we want you to make a few tweaks on how you make them and like how you're bringing
Mm.
forth um, kind of like your energy through them. So I also am a musician and a sound healer, although I like to call it sound holing. Like
Yes.
rather like we don't necessarily need healing, we just need to remember our wholeness. So what
Let
I
me tell you, this is like the major lesson that I teach in my Reiki 3, like the advanced healer class that I teach. It's like, hey, everything you just learned is really important. And also, it doesn't matter because the only thing you have to think about, the only thing you're responsible for is remembering that your clients are whole and perfect and beautiful and love exactly as they are. And all they need to do is come more into contact with that knowing.
mm-hmm.
So, like, all the technique and all the skill is like great, but also it means nothing without this focus. So, I say that just to say I'm with you on the holing.
Yeah. So it's definitely a frequency. It's a frequency of confidence. It's a frequency of belief, like truth, your heart. And so that's the like my primary place I go when I start to create a piece of music or a soundscape or a transmission for a sound healing session. I just enter into the heart space. And in that space, I do trust and I do have a sense of this infinite, endless love. And so the guides wanted me to start creating the journal covers and do the Coptic binding like while listening to my own soundscapes.
Whoa, talk about wholeness.
Yeah, so I was like weaving the soundscapes, which are weavings themselves of different frequencies, like into the actual fabric of the journals.
Yes. And there's this wholeness to the circle that you are providing, like you channeled the soundscape. And then when you sit down to make the journal, it's not like you need to sit down and listen to somebody else's music or listen to even your guides necessarily, right? You're actually like coming back to your own creation to like, there's this circle that I'm sensing in that feels really whole,
Mm-hmm.
which just adds layers to the power. And I will say that that's just what I feel when we talk about these, when I hold one in my hands, is like layers upon layers of intention, of power.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I'm so glad you feel that because it's, yeah, that is the energy I put into the journals is, it's a lot. I mean, like, actually, I have to take a big break from making them sometimes because it's just so much.
Yeah.
So, like right now, I have this, I had this, not a promise necessarily, but I was like, yeah, I'm going to bring a bunch of journals to you soon. And I haven't brought them to you yet because they're, I haven't.
And what did I say to that?
Oh, you said in due time or something.
Whenever it happens will be the perfect time.
Yeah.
I also just want to comment that I've just brought this painting over to put behind me. And as soon as you said the thing about wholeness and specifically confidence, we have a friend in common. I mean, our friend Cece is how I met Eesha'ma. And Cece painted this painting. And the last time I was at Cece's house and this painting was there and I was receiving a healing session from her. And before the healing session from Cece even started, the painting gave me like a major transmission. And it was exactly that. It was this confidence and wholeness in like a super clear and fierce way. So I just think it's interesting. I just brought it over. Like, I think it supports the energy.
Yeah, I love that painting.
Yeah. I have some other questions for you, and you can answer them in whatever order you want. If I interrupted your process, you can go back. But I'm curious about your choosing of the fabrics, and I'm curious about what you put on the inside. Um, yeah,
So,
and like your
yeah.
intention.
Hmm.
Like, what's the point of them?
Totally.
All of that.
Okay. So I have a particular eye for cultural fabrics. I think they're amazingly vibrant and colorful and gorgeous. And they're also hand woven. So that kind of brings in this other, it comes back to the weaving,
More
right?
layers.
um, and fabric itself is like a weaving of threads together, which I really truly see as just what life is. Life is this constant movement of weaving threads of thought, threads of consciousness, threads of matter coming together, interacting with itself, themselves, like all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, what I love about the fabric that I am choosing too is that I get kind of a charge on it. I'm like, am I like, I kind of question, I muscle test maybe, or I
Yeah.
internally ask, like, is this fabric of a high frequency and will it help support the mission of these journals? So each fabric that I choose passes that test.
There was another question that popped into my mind earlier that just popped back in, which is Isn't it so fun when your guides give you really clear advice? Like give you really clear instruction? It's not always fun, but it always feels sort of satisfying to me
Mm.
when they're so clear and detailed.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not always the case. So when that comes, it's like, oh, I'm gonna bathe in this for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, at least I know what to do now. I'm like, I trust you. This feels right. It's so nice to have detailed instructions once in a while.
Yeah. Um, okay, so I answered the fabric question. Um,
And oh, the
oh, the
what's on
inside.
the insides, and then like, what's your general wish or intention for the world with
Mhm.
these?
Okay. So I'm going to start with the general intention because I feel like that order works for what wants to come through, which
Mm.
is that the download that I receive from my guides and what I feel wholeheartedly, especially when I hold my new journal in my hands,
Mm.
is that we are true creator beings. And when we have blank pages before us, it can be intimidating.
Mm.
Or we can step like into, if we tune into these journals like that I've infused with all the frequencies that you mentioned while reading the paragraph, it's like if you tune into the journal, that fear of like writing like on the blank page and potentially ruining it or whatever should dissipate entirely. So I my hope for these journals is truly for people to step into a playfulness and a confidence that whatever it is they draw or write in the journal is perfect. But also to use it wisely and to utilize it as a tool for manifestation. Um, because that brings me to the inside. The inside has these sacred geometrical shapes that are little metal stickers that I've found on Etsy, and yeah, they're all different kinds. At some, I kind of asked the journal, which one goes in, and but there's like Metatron cube, there's a dodecagram, there's the all-seeing eye, um, there's also the Sri Yantra, and along accompanied with them are these snake beings from the creation realms that stepped forth after I started making the journals. After a little while, I thought, because I would border the page, like I would border the journal, the inside covers with gold design. And one day, this snake being, it was just like, hey, like actually, I want to be drawn. Like, can you draw me? And I was like, how could I deny that? I mean, I made sure that it was from the light and it only had unconditional love for all of humanity. And so I let it come forth. And actually, let me show you real quick. Um, this is like a good example. I hadn't actually drawn one for myself, so I went ahead and did it after a solstice ceremony that I was part of.
Wow. Like every part of that, the inside, those, so sorry if you're listening and not watching, go watch the YouTube. Those inside the triangles with, I don't know what to call them, rainbows. And then outside of that looks like, to me, those look like seed pods.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you intended them to be. And then little like tadpoles or sperm.
Yo, I see them as like little baby snake beings. But
Yes.
yeah, yes, the idea is that like this is your cherished egg, full of life force potential.
Mhm.
And this is like the mother. This is like your overlighting or
Mm,
your oversoul or something. I still don't really know what this transmission is all
yeah.
about. But almost like this is a template that you can look into and step into your creatorship, knowing that you are fully supported and guided
Mhm.
and protected to unfold your truest authentic expression of love
Yeah.
and whatever that expression of love wants to create. Um, so the journals are encoded with these snake beings so that they can support this journey, um, and where the sacred geometry acts as an amplification so that it can be brought into the world with grace and empowerment.
Hmm.
Um, and
When
some,
I,
oh, so good. Go ahead.
well, so when I see and feel that that snake and the snake beings in the journals, I really feel that sort of that energy of protection, of mother, of creation. But typically, when I think of a snake, or in the past when I've thought of a snake in terms of snake medicine, I think of it as the sloughing off of the skin, right? The shedding of the skin to begin anew. And so I'm curious, is that, does that factor in, or is this a different energy altogether? Or how do you, is there sort of a comprehensive way that you are interacting with snake now?
Um, yes, so I do feel like the transformational symbolism of the snake and its metamorphosis that it goes through, or like the shedding of its skin and like the opaqueness of its eyes and the trust involved in like that process, is just one process. It's like one aspect of the snake. And it's the most popular known aspect. But something I have been coming into the awareness of as I spend time in nature and I spend time actually witnessing rattlesnakes in nature, that their act, I believe, I don't know if this is for fact, but I believe that they are navigating the creation lines and giving power to potential realities. Like they're supporting the earth in all of her potential creative endeavors that,
When
you know,
you say creation lines, is that similar to ley lines?
yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
so I understand, and I'm just going to clarify that what you're saying is your impression the based on your intuition and the information you're getting, which, let's be honest, for me is a lot more trustworthy than the like provable facts you can find anyway. So I just want to make space for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been through a journey mostly in my dreamscapes. It was like a 3-year process of initiations with snakes, um, which I don't really need to go into necessarily, but I'll just say that there were like a couple very potent initiations with snakes, and within that time frame and afterwards, I've just come to see snakes as, I see them everywhere actually. I see them in places where they're not actually snakes, but I'm driving down the road and I'll see the road as a snake. And I
Mhm.
understand that it's the snakes create pathways and they create
Mm.
potentials. And there is the kundalini force of energy, which is the serpent that rises up your spine and like explodes into your third eye, and like
Yeah.
it's all this potential life force energy that can so easily come to fruition when we're like laser focused.
Mhm.
So when you have a journal that has blank pages, you have then the potential to narrow and or widen whatever focus it is that you want. But when you come into the blank page and you utilize it as like this infinite space of potential, with the support of the snake beings and the sacred geometry, then you have something there. Uh,
Yeah.
it's and it takes trust. I do believe it. It takes a belief in it, um, in a way, but also like because the medicine is in it, it's like you don't. I would never write any bad word in one of these journals.
Right.
I would never wish anyone harm, or I would only imagine a world that would work for every single being involved.
Yeah.
Everyone was symbiotically benefiting from everyone else. So,
The beauty of that space being held, within the covers and on the pages, is that when you write down the thing that you want without maybe understanding how its fruition will be the best for everybody involved, I imagine that some of those truths and those possibilities become evident, right? Like that's the point, is you don't have to know everything or how everything is going to turn out in order to write it down. What you need is true desire, the awareness of possibility, and the willingness to play and to see what happens. And I love the idea that by putting something down in one of these journals, you're saying, this is important to me, I want to explore this. I want this to become, or I want to become in the process of understanding this thing. You
definitely.
know?
Yeah, and there doesn't need to be pressure on anyone who writing in one of these journals to be 100% enlightened or get it right in the first page. The idea of every page passing is an unfolding of the journey, an
Mm.
unfolding of the manifestation. So if you feel called, and I feel called to do this, is like write things over and over and over again in these journals, and they amplify in that way too. Because when you put your energy on something every day, that's when you start to embody the frequency of it is what it is that you want.
Yeah.
So if you're really dreaming of like a juicy partnership entering your life, you know, write all the details of that person that you're calling in the best of your ability. Maybe you're going to draw that person. Maybe you're going to um, practice like what conversations you're going to have with that person. Like,
In the past, I will say the different ways I have done this practice are: one, I've written letters to that person.
mm,
Dear you, where are you? I'm waiting. Right? Things like that, but nicer and more juicy. Um, and then I've written like qualities, but I like better the practice of writing the feeling I'm after.
mm,
Right. So a lot of my clients know this. I do this with when it comes to anything that you want. I always say make 3 columns on your page: what I want, the feeling I'm really after, and where I already have it in my life.
mm,
That way, you take the energy you've already recognized. Okay, here's the thing I want. Let's say the thing you want is like a shiny new car. Okay. I want the shiny new car because it's going to make me feel excited and happy, and like I manifested something magical, right, in my life. Okay, well, where do I already have that feeling? Where can I already look and see the magic that I've created, or that feeling of excitement or pride that I like accomplished a goal? And then you just put more energy into those places where you already have it. And then you're just amplifying that same energy. And if the best way for it to come to you is in the form of a shiny new car, that's what'll come. And if the best way for that to come to you is something else, that's what'll come. And it won't matter that what you started with is the shiny new car,
exactly.
right? It's like the process of really getting to the root of why you want what you want. And I like the way we can incorporate. I get like a little tired of like the triteness of gratitude practice these days. I need to get like a little crafty about it in order to get myself interested. So to me, this is crafty, right? In saying like, how can I just put more energy and more cherishing into the place where I already have this thing, as opposed to needing to say, I am grateful for this. Sometimes it's just hard for me to get into a grateful place just because I'm saying the word gratitude. And I think it even has like the opposite effect.
I get that. Yeah.
And the thing I found the most helpful to counteract that aversion is just speak it out loud, because the more you say the things, the more I say the things I'm actually grateful for, the more I embody that that feeling of gratitude. But like the anticipation and like the thought of like the chore of listing the things I'm grateful for is like a big turnoff for me.
Yeah, often I have to start, or not have to, but I choose to start by really feeling into what bliss feels like.
Mm.
And I bring my heart into the heart of the earth. And I imagine myself in this like giant, beautiful violet heart of the earth.
Mm.
And I just imagine what the bliss feels like. And I thank Mother Earth for all the pleasure this body can feel, and
Mm.
for all the nourishment that she provides it to continue being here. And then from there, I can propel myself to like really feel grateful for all the things, because it's like without the body, there would be no
Mm.
things.
Yeah. That's helpful. And that, I think that's, anytime I get into that place, that feeling of bliss, like then gratitude is just a natural byproduct.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm feeling blissful right now.
Speaking of bliss, I just thought I might bring up a pastime that it turns out we have in common, or a love, I think, for kirtan.
Ah! Yes. Oh my gosh. Kirtan is pure bliss.
It really is, right? It's like amazing. Just talking about it, I'm getting like a little eyes glazed, blissed over, or eyes glazed over, blissed out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
My friend Seth is actually having some, I think, free kirtan classes like once a week.
wow.
Um, yeah, I really wish I knew more right now, but maybe.
My rebellious nature is coming out, because in the same way that I get uh I don't want to do a gratitude practice. Most like, I don't want someone to teach me kirtan.
Oh, I think he just leads it. Yeah, I don't know if he's
That's nice.
necessarily teaching, but it's like a class in the sense that he leads these chants and
Yeah.
then it's call and response. And
No, that's really nice. And
yeah,
it would be really nice to learn too. I'm just having an inner teenager moment.
ah, love those moments. They're really,
Mm.
yeah. I just feel like those moments, those inner teenage moments, are true catalyzing potential moments. You can choose in that moment to overcome that like grumpy teenager, or you
Mhm.
can continue to dwell in it.
Yeah. Can you just laugh at it and move on? Because that's what I usually do.
Yeah. I wrote a song once and it was a soundscape, so it's like I can't create it ever again. I've
Mm.
listened to it and then there's just no way. Like I can really comprehend the layers involved. But the words were, can you sit down with all your fears? Serve them tea and wipe their tears. Um knowing, oh gosh, I can't remember the rest. But that's about it. That's
Well, it's powerful in those few lines.
yeah.
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 Um, so I have two other questions that I wrote down that I want to ask you, and then I think we'll probably call it quits for today.
Okay.
Unless something really good comes up, then we can talk for another hour and a half. Um, so my first question is, and this can be like first impulse, you know, you don't have to think too much about it, but what inspires you and what challenges you?
Okay. So, what truly, really, really, really inspires me is connection. When people are actively trying to connect in positive ways, whether it's with themselves or with God, Source, Great Spirit, or if it's with their like inner child or with, a passion that they've been exploring. When I personally am a very touchy feely person, so I love anything that involves getting intimate, like physically, not necessarily romantically, but I mean, that's great. But like acrobatic yoga, playful and fun, like that, like totally inspires me. Just bodywork trades, loving that, like feeling like you can really break down the barriers of our insecurities
Mm,
to open this huge, vast network of connection
yeah.
that's there. It's there already, so why not acknowledge it? So that inspires me.
And like the vast network of connection. And now I'm thinking about like all of your like nerve endings, neural pathways, like everything that gets involved, your biochemical hormone secretions, right? That happen when you are connected.
Yeah,
And what was that?
endorphins, the serotonin, the melatonin, like everything that's released. Uh,
Didn't we? I think we may have heard this on the same day or something. The 30 seconds, when you hug somebody for 30 seconds, this is like the big dopamine release,
yeah.
similar to what we're after in our food cravings, basically.
Yes, in the podcast, it was I believe, a Zach Bush
Oh,
podcast.
yeah.
And he said that if you hug someone for 30 seconds before you sit down to have a meal with them, you're most likely going to eat your meal slower, chew more, and digest better.
Mm,
Because,
okay.
yeah, like I'm there.
Sounds good. Um, and I will also say that I love when I feel safe and comfortable enough to be touchy feely with people, but that's not my like natural first place that I am.
Mhm.
And once I had once I had whatever kind of first connection I needed with you, where I connected, felt safe with you, now all I want is for you to touch me. I'm like, come give me a hug, take me. And so you definitely, I don't know, that comes through you. And it's for me, it's like, I don't want to say medicine, like, come give me my medicine, right? But it's healing and it inspires growth in me just to be in that presence, to be held, to be touched and felt.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, and that connection can also happen in the form of kirtan or devotional chant and devotional dance. And there's also scientific research that just has, I don't want to say proven, but that has shown and helped come to be in actual realization that devotional chanting and devotional dancing are the two things that can actually um, activate the release of telomerase in your body, which is an enzyme that builds the telomere caps at the ends of your
I
DNA.
was going to say, I think that I look at that and pronounce it telomere.
Yeah, telomere, telomerase.
Okay.
And so that actually keeps your DNA from unraveling. so that slows the aging process.
All right.
I have a friend who's in
I'm
his
gonna go chant now.
yeah, I know. I think he's in his like mid to late 70s. I can't be sure, but definitely in his 70s. And he looks so young. I mean, you can tell he's an older person, but his energy is vibrant. And he got a test done on his DNA, and they were so surprised to see how intact his telomeres were. But he has been such a devotional musician his whole life. And he hasn't even done kirtan. He was like playing rock and roll, and he was doing like other like jazz and blues and all these other forms of music, but his heart was so in it. He was like devoted to the practice of music. And so I use him as like my primary example.
That's amazing. And I'm just going to talk about kirtan for another minute here for a devotional song. Um, the first time that I experienced kirtan, basically it took me back to when I was a kid, and I went to synagogue and we sang in synagogue. And I always, whenever we were doing that, singing all together, and it's devotional as well. And I had this feeling of just my heart being open. And I remember even in more recent years, like let's say in the last 15 years, being back in synagogue and sitting next to my brother and singing this song and like just holding his hand, which is not like a normal thing for us. And both of us just sort of like grabbing each other and sort of sharing this moment of the heart opening.
Wow.
And then I experienced kirtan for the first time, and I was like, oh, I just love singing about God. I just love singing to God. Like, it doesn't matter which tradition, it doesn't matter which language, although maybe there's something to Hebrew and Sanskrit, both being like ancient languages, that carry that vibration, or that carry a vibration, a sacred vibration. But that's when I realized, I'm like, oh yeah, I just like really love sacred song, and it's such medicine for my heart. And if I'm ever like not feeling myself, usually the answer is go chant.
Mm-hmm. I have had so many experiences like that, but even just the other day, I was feeling just not fully alive, and I have a good friend, Renee Radharani, who has a few albums, but I put on one of her albums. I think it's Just One Drop, and I put it on shuffle, I think, and this song, which is where her name comes from, Radharani, it comes on, and it just like filled me with this life force energy, and I couldn't stop. I was like, Srimati Radharani ki jai, Srimati Radharani, Srimati Radharani ki jai, Srimati Radharani. And I like played it on repeat, and then I just like was like back. I was back in my skin.
I Interestingly, one of the songs that I will play on repeat is called Radharani Ki Jai by what's his name? Oh, one of the really like famous kirtan guys. I can't remember. David.
Hmm.
Yeah. I gotta look it up now.
I mainly just listen to like my friends,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't, or I'm singing it. I don't know.
Oh, Jayatal. Well, I was introduced to kirtan by friends of mine from Brooklyn Tribe, Jesse and Shri, and I was just like they are to this day my favorite people to chant with, because of the purity of devotion that comes through them. And um, unfortunately, I have also experienced chanting with people where I'm like, I don't feel the purity of your devotion, so I'm like not that excited about this. Like I'll get into my own purity of my own devotion, and that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have some favorite albums that I will listen to, but mostly I just like skip back in my memory to to live chanting experiences.
Hmm. Yeah. Kirtan, kirtan, kirtan.
Oh, we'll have to do a second podcast episode where we'll just talk more about kirtan because I have so much more to say, but I'm going to stop. Okay, so what challenges you?
Okay, what challenges me? Boundaries.
Really? Tell me more about that.
I feel like a lot of the time I'm just so wide open. And I'm not necessarily challenged by myself not having boundaries. I find myself challenged by people who have boundaries.
That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah. Um, and it's not like a challenge where like I want to overstep their boundary, but it's a challenge. It's like, but like, like I want to, can't we just like open you up so like we can interact in like a deeper way? um,
Interesting. Okay, so the challenge is boundaries that make you feel like you think your connection could be deeper, and this boundary is stopping you from having that.
I think, yeah, like, well, in conversations particularly, I feel sometimes there's people I can just, and it's fine, I accept it, because I can only go so deep. I can only get them to open up so much. And I guess maybe I'm not even trying to get them to open up, but I'm curious. And I'm like, when I talk to someone, I want to get to know them, I want to be present with them. So when there are boundaries up, there's almost also inherently a lack of presence.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but, and sometimes it's very clear presence, but they're just like, I'm just not going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but often there's both things that are missing or not missing.
It so makes perfect sense with what you said inspires you, which is connection. And so it's very clear that it's just like you are fed by connection, and um, barriers to that are a challenge
Yeah.
or present a challenge for you.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of
Um,
sense.
but I'll say one other thing that challenges me in a really good way
Yeah.
is my own body. Um,
Mm.
I have had so many times where my body has spoken to me very clearly, but I may have not been able to hear it. Um, or things that happened. Like I broke my back in 2010 on
You did?
April
I
Fool's
didn't know
Day.
that.
Yeah, so that was like the first time my body really challenged me. It was like challenging me to show up more fully, challenging me to be way more present with myself, challenging me to look at all of the multidimensional wounds that I didn't want to or didn't even know existed. So that also was a blessing because it was like a cracking open of my heart chakra in a way that was a spiritual awakening. It was like, okay, at whatever level of consciousness I'm at, I'm waking up to my bad habits, my good habits. I'm just becoming aware in general of the frustration that I feel when I can't get my body to do something that I want it to do.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I proceeded to put my body through basically hell. When I broke my back, I didn't give it enough time to really
Mm.
heal. So the 8 months of like healing of like you'll be completely good to go in 8 months came, the first thing I went to do was like go on a run. Immediately sprained my ankle. Like my body was like, impact sports don't even think about it. We're gonna like set you back some more. So it was just like, you gotta listen to us. You gotta listen to me. Um, so my body often challenges me to show up more presently and be more aware, and then also to teach me how to show up with compassion and reverence and respect, and so that I can honor it exactly where it is, which then can translate into all of my multidimensional wounds, where when I come across like a trigger, I can know it's not that person that I'm frustrated at. I mean, they triggered something within me, and I can say, all right, let me go inside, just like I do with my body, and say, who is it? Or like, what part of me is wounded? And like, yeah, let's sit down. Here's some tea. Here's a Kleenex for your tears. Like, let's like express this. Let's honor it. Let's love it. And like, let's bring it back to the light.
Yeah.
So maybe to bring it back to the books is like, that's one way to do it, is when you write very openly and honestly about how you're feeling, you can come into the awareness. You can have the light shed on what it is that you're going through.
Yeah. And often when we do that, when we see, understand what it is we're actually going through, shed the light on it. And in my opinion, if you're writing it down and you can be the observer of it, right, as opposed to just keeping it in your head, there's some amount of charge that goes away when you identify it. And then you can get to the next level of working with it, whatever that may be, you know?
Definitely.
Okay, I have one more question for you. What is your juiciest form of self-care right now?
Okay. I'm gonna go like kind of literal here. The
Do it.
juiciest is castor oil packs.
Mm-hmm.
Love them. And the Shakti mat.
So tell us more about both of those things.
Okay. So castor oil packs are really promoted by the school of thought of Edgar Cayce, who I actually have not studied and really don't know very much about. But castor oil is this really, really thick oil. And it comes from these little seeds that kind of look like engorged ticks, to be honest. But I think they're so beautiful.
Huh?
And it's apparently really nourishing. So if you take a piece of cloth flannel, like wool flannel or cotton flannel, and you saturate it with castor oil, you put that like on somewhere in your body that's needing nourishment. So oftentimes it's on the belly for the digestive system, or maybe it's on an injury that needs some attention. So you place it on your belly, you put you can either use like an electric blanket, or you can put a hot water bottle with warm water in it. You don't want it too hot. And you sit there, and Edgar Cayce actually really emphasizes you want to go into a meditative state where you feel grateful, you feel love, you feel bliss, you feel like you're feeling into the frequencies of unconditional love. So it helps the castor oil and go exactly where it needs to go. And that I feel has, I think I healed like a tear that I had in
Like a
like
muscle tear?
a ligament tear
Uh-huh.
by doing that a few times. And he says to do it for at least an hour, upwards to an hour and a half. Usually before bed is a really good time to do it. It could potentially be kind of messy, so he recommends like towels, lots of towels.
I'm remembering now that when I was practicing Mysore style Ashtanga yoga in Brooklyn, that my teacher said it was her practice that was given to her by her teacher in Mysore, to have a castor oil bath on the day off. So she would practice 6 days a week, and on the day off, I assume that what that is rubbing castor oil on your body and then getting into the bath. And that it's not, but I think at the time when she told it to me, I was imagining a bath of castor oil, which seems like a lot of oil. But even to rub it all over your body and then get into a bath is a lot of oil. But so when I hear things like that that are shared by different cultures, different teachers, that just reinforces to me that there's something powerful there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know much about, well, and the castor plant itself is really beautiful. Um, it has these like leaves that go up. It gets really tall, and it has these like, it has its stalk ends, like the way it flowers is, it has like these bright red balls with like it, I mean, it kind of looks um like there's like little, it's like an exploding sun or something,
Uh-huh.
a red exploding sun, um and then there's these like red flowers that come out of it. So the plant itself is really beautiful and has a lot of like red energy to it.
Do you know where it grows?
I've grown it here in
Oh,
the
you have.
Northeast. So it can grow here, and it goes fully to through its whole cycle. Um, I'm not sure where, I mean, like, I don't know where it
Yeah.
grows, where it's from. I imagine maybe South America or in like warmer climates.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, part of me thinks too that I haven't actually like tuned into this, but because the seeds look like little engorged ticks or big engorged ticks, I wonder if it could aid in the restoration of the body from Lyme disease.
I imagine there's something there. And now I'm curious to learn more about the plant, and I'm thinking, ooh, is there a flower essence from the castor
Maybe.
plant?
Yeah, the castor, to get the actual seeds, you have to crack open this like spiky shell.
Yeah, it's like a seed
Oh,
pod.
yeah, yeah. Kind of like a walnut in a way, because like when you open it up, they're like all nestled in like these, they're like own little compartments. Um, but yeah, that's the castor oil pack. And the Shakti mat. I think there are other names for them, but this is just like the brand that I happened to get. Is a mat that has a cushion, and there's like these little spiky things.
I have used it.
Yeah. And I've actually been using it every single night before bed. And it I also put like a rolled up cloth under my neck, so it goes onto my neck and gives me the acupressure on my neck also.
Mm.
Um, which it's just been very like, it brings blood to this, like it brings blood to the surface, but I feel like that blood also penetrates more deeply into the muscles. So, because I've had many back related issues in my life, so I've been needing to take care of my back extra. Uh, that's my roommate. Um, thank you. um, so to get that extra support from the blood really fully infusing into my back, it feels really pertinent. But I'm actually like, I forgot, because I've been on like so much of the realm of the physical like in the past couple months, but I want to mention one other self-care
Yeah.
that seems absolutely vital, and that is my sound practice, um, which is every day singing, like whatever it is that comes through, kind of, getting into my heart space, singing. I call it light language. Some people might call it gibberish. So they're actually, when I'm connected to my full pillar, my higher self, my guidance, my divine presence, they deliver codes and frequencies through the light language. Um, and with it can come awareness of like where in my auric field is weak, where are there some like holes that I can patch up,
Mm-hmm.
what aspects of, is there like a Venusian aspect or a Syrian aspect or an Arcturian aspect of me that needs attention, and
Mm-hmm.
when I give it attention will allow me to unfold and evolve further into my conscious spiritual trajectory. um, so yeah,
Does
that's
your singing practice bring you there every day, or is it sometimes just singing for joy?
it can be both, definitely. And yeah, not every day, like not everything, yeah, not every day is different.
Yeah.
So and there will be like weeks that go by sometimes where I'm not consciously aware of something. So yeah, it's definitely it's like still slow unfolding process, but just giving yourself the option, or the
Yeah.
showing up for yourself to make room for it, is the practice.
Exactly. Yes, I'm with you. I just want to point out also that we're both wearing black tourmaline necklaces from the Copper Newt, which are available at the store. Yours
Yeah.
is the hexagon, mine is the raw. So just want to point that out. Is there anything else that you want to share today before we say goodbye?
It is my deepest desire that all of us in humanity truly embrace the remembrance of who we are, which
Mm.
is pure love. No matter where we are in the unfolding of our journey, it is important to know that we are still pure love, and that I love you.
And I love you. And I want to send my love to anybody who's listening to this, and encourage those people to send their love out as well, so we can just keep sharing it.
Aho.
Aho. Well, thank you so much for being in conversation with me today. And I absolutely love having your beautiful creations here in the store. And you'll come back and we'll talk just about kirtan for a full hour.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lizzie. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. You can find us at everydaymagicwoodstock.com. You can find show notes at everydaymagicwoodstock.com/podcast. And you can visit us in person in Woodstock, New York next time you visit. Just find our address on the website. Have a wonderful, beautiful, magical day. May it be filled with all of your intentions.